guys, welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show Interviews, the premier podcast that shares the stories of our amazing LGBTQ community and, of course, fantastic straight allies, all from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and let's start talking. Welcome back, friends. Have I got a treat for me today? I'm thrilled to welcome one of my favorite actors, directors, and producers whose work's been captivating myself and audiences for decades. Jonathan Silverman's in studio with me, and you may know him from his breakout role in the classic 80s comedy Weekend at Bernie's, but I've been a follower of his career through stage, film, and television. From comedies to heartfelt dramas, Jonathan's versatility has made him a beloved figure in Hollywood. Today we're going to dive into his latest project, Feeling Randy, a comedy with heart that's sure to get people talking. I'll discuss his career, his approach to acting and directing, and what we can expect from this exciting new film. But before we get into it, let's take a look.
Greetings from Brighton Beach, from Eugene Jerome and his whole family.
Hey, shoes on the bed. That's bad luck in a Jewish house.
It's not a Jewish house. It was built by Italians.
It's a family
Pop, I have a problem.
If you didn't, you wouldn't live in this house.
as familiar as your own.
We're having liver and cabbage for dinner.
A medieval torture.
It appears as if somebody's trying to defraud the company.
Somebody tried to smoke it past the wrong guy.
Very, very good work. How would you two like to come to my house at the beach?
Love to!
For Larry and Richard,
How are you?
this is a place to die for.
You have to kill them, Vito.
A little rusty, but it'll come back to me.
What, should we just walk in?
But what
Who
they
are you?
don't
I'm like the assistant animal trainer.
When it comes to pets,
They have all these freaky animals, and all I want is a dog.
Eddie has one rule.
Hey!
No dogs.
Who is this?
This is Beethoven.
Don't worry, we're taking you to a nice new home.
Won't get lit, huh?
Yeah.
You're trying to undress her, man. You're trying to get her naked and nail her.
Right, but I'm just kind of thinking about more than that.
You know, it's not all driving around chasing girls.
It's just a house. A weird house.
You're a virgin. You sure you like girls?
I feel like I've lost a piece of my brain or I'm growing a new piece really, really, really fast.
That's awesome!
What the hell is going on?
You okay?
I don't know.
All those people out there, they're just pretending. Whatever's going on, it's just the man stepping on your groove.
Come on, Randy, let's go.
That's crazy.
Well, that's life. Can you explain yourself?
Well, Jonathan Silverman, welcome to Left of Str8 Show Interviews. You had me at Neil Simon and kept me all the way through Feeling Randy. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you again for having me on.
My absolute pleasure, sir. How is everything in beautiful downtown Southern California today?
It's a very glorious, happy, sunny day.
There you go. I love it. Well, Jonathan, you've had such an incredible career like we talked about. How does this little handsome baby-faced Jewish kid get into acting in the first place? You're killing it on the boards with some of Neil Simon's best work. Tell me about the origin story for just a quick second.
The origin story, yeah, I'm from Southern California, but my first paying job was a Broadway play. Neil Simon somehow thought it would be wise to put me in a show of his called Brighton Beach Memoirs, and I moved to New York and I did the play on and off, and the movie for the next couple of years. So that really was a hell of an introduction to the industry, and I learned how to act on stage in front of thousands of people, and then use the same exact material and act in front of a camera a few inches in front of my face. So it was a hell of a learning experience, and Mr. Simon kept giving me more and more work, and I'm forever grateful. I did 2 more of his Broadway plays and a few more of his movies, and I was extremely lucky. I'm still extremely lucky.
I can imagine. I mean, I've not only been in love with his work, but I'm kind of a wannabe writer, and he's the one that teaches edit, edit, edit. That's all I've ever learned about, and learned that from Neil Simon. He knows how to really take a story and boil it down, doesn't he?
Absolutely. His nickname was Doc because he really was a doctor of his script, and I can't tell you how many times I remember him at various rehearsals or sitting in his director's chair, constantly making notes and constantly changing, and he never really used a keyboard or a typewriter. It was all on like yellow legal paper, and he would just hand you, a new monologue, a new line, try this, try that. So yeah, it was a constant work in progress, which it's beautiful to have that kind of work mentality.
Oh, such an amazing time. It had to be hard work at the time, but I mean, such a gift to learn later on in acting and everything. I can imagine.
Such a joy. I miss those days, and I miss him very much.
Well, and talk about doc. I think that was one of my notes. I mean, you played so many doctors on TV. You should have your own stethoscope by now. I mean, this calling Doctor Jonathan.
Doctors and lawyers and lions and tigers.
Well, I want to go through this great career. I mean, from the 80s, we have Give Me a Break, Brighton Beach Memoirs, Weekend at Bernie's, of course. And 90s, we have Broadway Bound, Odd Couple 2. Oh my gosh. The Single Guy, which I was in love with, one of my favorite shows. And then early 2000s, we got some of my favorite guest roles. We got Psych and Numbers and White Collar. And now you have Good Girls and Moonshine and Murder in the Stars coming up. You've had a hell of a career, my friend. Congratulations.
Somehow I'm still doing it. Very, very honored.
I sprained my little finger on the IMDb page. It's a horrible thing. I'm going to have to get a Band-Aid here. It's like crazy, crazy time. I mean, and you seem like you're one of the nicest guys in show business. I can't find anyone to say a bad word about you. I mean, you've hit it well, my friend.
Thanks. I'm sure I can help you find a few people. But yeah, I've just found it so much easier to be nice than not. And I suppose I'd learned from some of my heroes early on in my career, and I guess those would be Jack Lemmon and John Lithgow, and I just saw the way they treated people, and their ethic and their desire to make a set happy and creative. And again, it's just so much easier to be kind than to be an asshole.
I love that. And I'm sure it's such a way to improve your craft, right? From Neil Simon to working with all these legends, and now you're writing and directing. You have your wife that's acting circles around everybody. I mean, it's got to be a lesson in acting every single day in your house.
It is. It is. I do feel sad sometimes for our helpless little 7-year-old daughter who sees what mommy and daddy do in their life of extreme pretend, and but she's slowly figuring out what's real and what's not. We recently had to do something where I played a character whose literal guts are flying out of his stomach, and she was helping me learn my lines, and she was putting like little pieces of sock and fabric in my shirt and pretending that was the guts that are coming out of my stomach. And but I guess it beats the alternative that, mommy and daddy just go to work at 8 a.m. and sit behind a desk all day and come home miserable. So I guess a life of fantasy is pretty cool for a little kid.
There you go. Honey, I forgot my briefcase, right? Oh my gosh, I'd be miserable. I understand. Well, I want to talk about, you've been such a great ally to the community. Everything from, I mean, from the funny to the serious. We had Coffee Date, we had GBF, we've had all these. I mean, early in Single Guy, you and Ross pretending to think each other was gay was hilarious.
Right.
Talk about this allyship and this community you've built with the LGBTQ community.
Well, the community is just so much a part of our community and fabric that it doesn't even seem to play a different role. Um, uh, uh, Growing up in LA and growing up really in the theater, I probably became friendly with more gay people than straight people, so it was never really an issue. And it's been fascinating watching life go through my 7-year-old daughter's eyes, because at her school she's got best friends who have two daddies and two mommies, and teachers who are male but wearing dresses and long fingernails, and it's all just perfectly normal and natural, and it's awesome. I'm trying to think the first the first gay character I probably played. I didn't even realize he was gay until about halfway through shooting the movie. Um,
That's funny.
it was a very gay project. It was I'll give you the names of the stars of the film. It was Elizabeth Taylor and Debbie Reynolds and Shirley MacLaine and Joan Collins, and it was written and produced by Carrie Fisher. And I guess for all intents and purposes, I played the male lead, but I was Shirley MacLaine's son who was directing the movie within the movie and trying to get all these legends back together for a project. And there was one particular scene that we were shooting, and it was a scene of me in bed with a girl, and Carrie Fisher had to take me aside and said, "So I don't know, we're not allowed to really talk about it, but this girl isn't your girlfriend, she's just your roommate." And I was thinking and thinking, and I'm like, "Carrie, am I gay in this show? Are you telling?" She's like, "Yes." We had to just do everything, on a very subtle level to get it past, the various people that, because this was the 90s and people didn't really want to focus on it. I'm like,
Right.
okay, well, this kind of changes everything. And then again, it really didn't change anything. But I just remember, being at work going, oh, wow, I've played this completely the wrong way. But God, that was a fun one. And yeah, and then I did a movie in Ireland with Bernadette Peters, who was playing my sister, and she was in a lesbian relationship, and I was supposed to be her gay brother. And God, we had fun with that one. And here we are in Feeling Randy, and I'm the dad of a character who's just going through a major journey to find his identity. He's not sure where he lies on any particular level, especially his sexual level. But wow, I don't think this character that I'm playing is very friendly to any community, let alone this one. This is the
No,
most vile, awful character I
it's
think I've ever
definitely
played.
not GBF dad, that's for
Oh
sure.
no, no, not a sweet, kind, understanding man.
We're going to get in the movie because it is kind of a remarkable performance where you
Oh,
get to
thanks.
play this curmudgeon-y kind of guy and with a little bit of secret of his own, I think, that
Yeah,
it's
some
kind of
major
hinted at
secrets.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing. Um, you've had such a great group of people you've worked with. I mean, I remember 3 years ago, I watched your interview with Bob Saget, and you were such good friends with
Mm.
him, and we lost him, and of course Matthew Perry, and then Single Guy, and all that stuff there. I mean, what's it like to kind of have these amazing relationships, and then just be able to kind of look back on that? Because it's really, you've had some amazing friendships, my friend. Still
I,
do, I'm
I
sure.
I've had some really terrific friendships, and losing Bob was like losing an older brother. He had been my confidant and best friend for decades, um, and that was awful. It was really awful. I officiated his wedding ceremony a year and a half prior, and it's been a really difficult loss to get over. And I think about him almost every day. And Matthew, we had been friends since we were teenagers. And Matthew is the friend who introduced me to my wife 20 years ago. So those two men played huge roles in my life, and I miss them dearly. And thank you for bringing up their memories.
Well, it's just like it's such an amazing when you have those bonds. You don't see a lot of it in the Hollywood industry, that at least in front of the cameras or in front of the scenes, right? You get a lot of people behind the scenes that have made these relationships, but you guys really, you can see the love and everything you guys have done, and from talking in interviews, I just really love the camaraderie that you guys kind of made together. It had to make doing the business that much more special, I could assume.
Absolutely. And you know, when you meet people that are special and giving and kind, especially in this industry, you really tend to just want to be around them as much as possible, and those were definitely two of the greatest.
My favorite thing watching you and Bob Saget on his podcast he did was he just doesn't want to let you go. I mean, it keeps going and go. I mean, that's the kind of friend you want, someone that just doesn't want to let it go. So
Just
absolutely.
the constant conversations that we had were just to get him to hang up the fucking phone already. And then, after you hang up the phone, you would have to text for the next 20 minutes. It's just like, it's enough. It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
That's the kind of friend I want to have. I love that. That's amazing. We'll talk about, I mean, the career, like I said, gone through so many great things. Working in Canada during the whole COVID thing with your wife, that had to be kind of exciting. Have you worked with any relevant anyone that close to you before? And what was that like?
My wife is a dynamite human being and a terrific actress. Her name is Jennifer Finnegan. For those playing at home, we have worked together so many times, and we obviously love it. We've even directed a movie together. We've produced a movie together. We've acted in countless projects together. This particular one, which is I guess the most recent, was a show called Moonshine that she was the lead of, and we shot in Nova Scotia, on the exact farthest, most easterly part of the continent. Very difficult to get to, but very worth it once you do get there. And it was, I believe, the very first show in North America that began shooting after the pandemic. And in Nova Scotia in those days, they had 0 cases of COVID. It was deemed like the safest place to shoot. So we were immediately quarantined, and then we were told, our little group of thespians and directors, we kind of had to bubble together. So we all became very, very close. And yes, there was a character in there of the asshole husband. So I played that part. And there was even one episode in the first season where everything was, not everything, but a good deal of the episode was a flashback to when all these characters were little kids, and they asked our little kid to play young Jen. So we got the whole family working.
I love that. Get those SAG cards early when you
Yes,
can. I
and it's a
love
wonderful show, and it aired on the CW, and I believe it still is available on their,
I've seen
on
a
their
couple
streaming.
episodes. Yeah, it's actually fantastic. Your wife does an amazing
Isn't
job.
she great?
You are not so nice again, but you're not a bad guy, but you
Right.
are. I mean,
And Jen
yeah,
and
but
I
you aren't.
just
So
worked.
yeah,
We just worked together again, on an upcoming episode of the Ryan Murphy Show, 911, and we play a divorcing couple who are constantly fighting, and that was, I don't know if I'm allowed to really talk about it because it hasn't aired yet, but that was the particular job where I have some health issues, and it's very funny and very crazy.
I love things like that. Oh my gosh, that's great. I can't wait for that. It had to be nice too to kind of get out of to bring your daughter. I mean, your daughter was what, 3 at the time or something when you went there. So
Yes, she was
I'm
actually,
sure
she
she
was
was
still
like the
two,
belle of the
turning three.
ball,
Yeah.
and everyone loved having her around.
It was like going back in time because the restaurants were open, and the various preschools and childcare centers were open, and she got to just play and be free, and then we stayed an extra few months because the rest of the world was really shut down, including our home in California. So we've probably finished filming, say, in November. We just stayed a couple extra months. At the time, I was shooting Good Girls, and they were on a huge delay, waiting for the COVID protocols to fall into place. So we just became true Canadians for an extra chunk of time. It was lovely.
I love that. I mean, and you've had such a vast and storied career. Would you say, or where did you don't even have to say a name, but where was maybe some of your best advice you've gotten throughout the years, and what was some of maybe your worst advice you've gotten
Wow.
throughout the years?
That's a very good question. Some best advice might have been from John Lithgow, who I obviously still admire so much. But when we were working together, it was an HBO film called Traveling Man, and I just remember being blown away by John's, first of all, kindness and brilliance, but his versatility. He just finished a show on Broadway that he got nominated for, and then he's off, doing a movie, and then he's, and he's playing the Harry and the Hendersons. He's just doing all these crazy, different, versatile projects, and at the same time, no one kind of really knew who he was. He was just kind of, oh, you're that, what's your name? And he said the
Right.
whole trick is to just stay lukewarm. Don't be like too hot and too successful. Don't be too unemployed and and broke. But if you could find that sweet spot where you just get the jobs, enjoy your life, be with your family, travel. So that was that was a very good piece of advice. Another piece of advice was a financial piece of advice, and I just brought it up with him. I saw him last week, from Andrew McCarthy, who we did the Weekend at Bernie's movies with,
Sure.
and he said, when you're negotiating a contract, just take all the upfront money you can. They're always going to offer you some back end or some points. Just say no to those points. Get the guaranteed cash. And I was like, yeah, but what if it's a success? And, you're a producer of the film and you get a little piece. He says, they're never going to give it to you. And having had pieces of many back ends, he's very right.
That creative
So,
Hollywood financing
yes,
bites you in the
yes.
butt every
Even
time,
if you're
right?
getting 1% on the dollar, take the upfront cash. The worst advice, gosh, I don't think anyone's ever given me bad advice, but I've seen people do really stupid things, and I've learned from their mistakes. How about that answer?
That's a good one. I
Yeah.
like that. And it's funny you say Andrew, because I think of you, like you said, you've had so many of these fun roles throughout your life, and then playing some of his a little more curmudgeon later. And Andrew was such like the same sweet thing, and he does good evil. I mean, starting White Collar and so he does some pretty good evil characters. I'm pretty impressed
He
by it.
yeah. I mean, he's probably best known for being, the sweet, sensitive boy next door type, but boy, there's a dark side under there that it's always fun to see people tap into that. And funny, he was also telling me last week that I think besides Weekend at Bernie's, he never gets to do comedy. People just assume he's not funny, but he's hysterical. And I hope they tap into it. He's directing so much. I don't even know if he has time to act anymore. But
Right.
he's a very in demand director, especially for 1 hour television.
Yeah, I've seen that. I mean, I see his name everywhere on those
Yeah,
shows. Yeah,
Blacklist and Orange
doing
is
a
the New
great
Black,
job.
just and Good
Well, and
Girls.
talk about your kind of foray into directing and producing and everything. I mean, I'm surprised you're not writing after being with Neil Simon for so many
Right.
years. But talk about directing, producing, how all of your hats as an actor have kind of helped inform your decisions.
It is a tremendous amount of fun to be a director. It's also the hardest thing I've ever done, and I haven't done it that much. A couple movies, some TV, but wow, a whole different level of energy and focus. It's a completely different brain that you need, and not that being an actor is full of just creative laziness, but being a director, boy, you're in charge of all of it, and you have to bring all this confidence and make everyone feel comfortable and happy around you. At least that's how I feel on the sets that I'm directing on. I've certainly been on a lot of sets where directors really don't care if you're happy. Actually, they prefer you
Right.
not to be. But I like to have a happy set and let people think that they're having the time of their lives, even though I might not be. I want them to have the most fun ever.
I love that. And I mean, you've been in this industry long enough, you can kind of pick and choose your characters whenever, I would think. Talk about Randy, how did this come to you? What did you think? I mean, it's more cameo than anything else. It has a great arc in it, but it's actually more of a cameo thing. What kind of drew you to this character in
Um,
Feeling Randy?
First of all, like you said, they offered it to me, so that's always nice when you sit down to read a script that you don't
Helps.
have to audition for it and fight for it. Um, I was just so touched by the script. I just thought it was such a beautiful story and an important story, and a story that's not always told, especially a period piece. This takes place in the '70s. Decades and decades before kids had access to be able to get answers to their questions. And you sort of had to figure it out trial and error by yourself. And then I stumbled upon this character, and he's just brutal. He's just awful. And I had to read it again a second time just to see if I could stomach what he does to his kid and his wife. And I had a chat on the phone with Dean Lett, our wonderful writer director, and he told me his story is very similar to what he wrote, and his relationship with his father was truly awful, and it was so cruel, and he's still triggered and traumatized. Um, and I just remember trying to ask him for something that could clue me into what happened to him. How did he become this horrible a person? And he just sort of talked me through the various possibilities of his life in the service and how he was treated and his possible homosexuality himself and him and unable to come to terms with it and taking it out on his family. And even then, I was hesitant. And then I had my wife read the script, and she went, "You got to do this. You just got you got to explore this character." Um, and I just remember coming home from set some days and just feeling so dirty. And I made a point of befriending Reed, the wonderful actor who plays the
So
lead,
good.
Randy, in the show, and just letting him know how supportive I am of him. And I'm just playing a character, but please know I'm gonna be your dad off the set and give you so much love and wisdom and guidance, because what we're gonna be doing on set is just so fucking awful, and I'm apologizing in advance. And it's brutal. It's uncomfortable to watch. Now, granted, 90% of the movie is so sweet and enjoyable and funny and touching, but there's a good 10% that's just dark and awful.
I do
But that's
love
a nice
that. Yeah.
blend, 90-10.
Yeah, I mean, it is not a lot of fun to watch your character at all times, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
you talk about Reed. I just spent an hour with Reed on the phone. I mean, I loved his acting. Joe Bell was amazing. I mean, speaking of John Lithgow, he reminds me of this generation's Gordon or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I
Oh,
think
so
Reed. I
right. And
think
they look
he had
alike too.
he has that such a way he looks at things, and with the writer producer everything, I think he's going to be definitely the second Joseph. I think
He's
because I think
so
he does so
talented
well.
and so sweet. And it's just so hard to look at him as a married man now. I
Right?
mean, it's just like, you're married? What? But I'm awfully proud of him, and I'm always rooting for him. He's a great kid, and people really need to see this movie. Especially if you saw what he did in Joe Bell. He's so talented, so talented.
I am looking forward to following his career more. And getting back to your character, I mean, you hear it a lot in acting, but this character for you especially, you really do read it in the eyes. Because, like I said, we talk about the secret. There's kind of a secret, maybe, and your eyes are so expressive. I mean, you've always had that young baby face. I remember you through all your movies, but your eyes still have such expression, and I think you really kind of showed that complexity for the time you're on the screen. So well done, my friend.
Thank you very much. I thank you for saying that, and I'm very proud of this movie and my stuff in it, and I'm thrilled the way it came out, and I hope people see it. I know it's playing in a theater in LA on November 1st, but on the 5th of November it's available to stream however you stream your movies these days. But I hope people watch it.
And talk about, I mean, you and I are both of pretty much the same age here. Talk about these sets now. We have all these young boys running around, young boys in their 20s or whatever. But I mean, working on these sets these days, does it feel different at all being the older statesman, so to speak? Or talk about how movie sets are these days, or television sets, everything to work with for you these days.
The experience is still the same, and I get a lot of joy just being around my fellow actors and crew, because it is a very a family experience, and you're working with these people, 15, 16 hours a day for weeks and months. So that experience hasn't changed. However, now that I'm getting older and playing the father roles, it's been fascinating to see how I've sort of stepped back into, the wise sage on the sets, and the young actors are coming to me with questions and stories, and what was it like, and have you ever had this happen to you, and what do you think I should do? And it's very odd. I got offered something, I don't know, maybe a year ago, that I couldn't do for scheduling purposes, but it was to play a grandfather. And
No, say it isn't so. I don't
the
believe that for a second.
the producer is a friend of mine, and I said, dude, I thank you for offering this to me. B, I can't. And C, do you think I'm old enough to play a grandfather? And then we did the math, and I guess if I got married, and had my first kid, and then. But I said, I don't want to ruin your show by having people go, look at this moron trying to pass as a grandpa to a teenager. But anyway, I hope I continue working long enough to play great grandfather. So I should be so lucky.
There you go. But how dare you, sir? At this time, I would tell that producer. That's for damn sure.
Believe me, I remember the first dad role I played, and I would just go to the set going, how am I going to pull this off? What am I going to do? And they had to put white in my hair, and make some reference that I had my kid when I was 18 years old, and but I guess I'm blessed to look a little younger than I am instead of looking
There
a
you
lot older
go.
than I am. But
Yeah.
believe me, before I became a dad in real life 7 years ago, I looked so much younger. This kid has just aged me so
Yeah.
rapidly.
Dad and president, same thing. It'll age you in
Yes.
4 to 7 years, so quickly,
right.
right?
So right.
Let's finish up with that. Let's talk about your mentors and mentoring these people nowadays. Who do you consider mentors that were really there for you when you were kind of starting out or even mid-career? And what advice do you have for these writers, directors, producers these days? And
Wow,
actors, of
another
course.
another good question. You do good stuff. Yeah, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old and into my early 20s, I worked with the same core group of people in all those Neil Simon plays and movies. And that would of course be Neil Simon, and that would be Gene Sachs, who directed me in many of those productions, and Manny Eisenberg, who is this wise sage genius Broadway producer, and they just taught me how to be a good person, and they taught me how to be a responsible professional, and have a good work ethic. And I'm just so grateful to them, and I miss them as people. I miss them as mentors, but I'll never forget the guidance they gave me.
I love that. And what advice do you have for those kind of coming into the business these days? Something that will maybe something that they don't really expect going in, something they should kind of pay attention to.
Don't be an asshole. Just be lucky you've got this as your career. May you have a long, happy career, and just be kind to everyone you're working with, especially on the way up, because there's a lot of peaks and a lot of valleys in a long career, and people remember you for good or for bad. So let's try and get them to remember you for being good.
Well said. Jonathan Silverman, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you today and talk to you. Thank you so much. The film
Thank
is
you, Scott.
Feeling Randy, and it's opening, I think, in the next 2 days from when this airs here in Beverly Hills for a very short run. But then you can find it streaming everywhere. Jonathan, we talk about Mr. Nice Guy. I love your social media feed. You are so good with your wife and your kid and just kind of shooting joy. Let everyone know where they can find you on social media, my friend.
Oh yes, that stuff. Okay. On the Instagram, I am at Johnny Silverman, which is JONNYSILVERMAN. And on the Twitter or X, I honestly have no idea. Do you know what it is? I don't know what it is.
Only the cool kids know. I don't do X anymore. I kind of given that up.
I'm not really
Yeah.
on that at all. But that's what I am on Instagram. And the whole reason I even joined Instagram, because I remember when all the people were doing it, I'm like, I don't want to fucking do that. And I'm all into my privacy. I don't want to show people pictures of my vacation or my family. But my wife was shooting a series in the Middle East, in Tel Aviv and Morocco, and then eventually in Hungary and in Europe. and it was really one of the few ways we could kind of keep tabs on each other with the time difference, and we'd only get to see each other once every few weeks. So I joined up on Instagram just so she could see what I'm doing and I could see what she's doing.
It's a necessary evil sometimes, but
Yep.
it does help you keep in touch on occasion too.
Absolutely.
You're right. All right, well, stay on the line, Jonathan, for me. We're going to have a special 5 questions with Jonathan next week. Be sure to look for that. Check out this movie, Feeling Randy. I appreciate you every time tuning into Left of Str8 Show interviews. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website for contests and other news and information. See you next week.